I refuse to proceed with that, Tom. Have you lost your senses? Marcus Crawford gazed at his phone screen, where a message from a former classmate illuminated with an air of accusation. Let's go, Marcus. That physics final from senior year? You definitely owe me for that one. Tom's voice crackled through the speaker, a blend of anticipation and urgency in every syllable. After all, it's merely one evening. Marcus turned his comfortable chair away from the standing desk, looking out at the San Francisco skyline from his penthouse office. Holding the position of CEO at Crawford Tech came with its advantages, yet it also brought about situations where individuals like Tom Martinez believed they could request favors. 10 years have passed, Marcus murmured, as he scrolled through the digital yearbook photos Tom had shared, and I didn't even know her back then. Precisely. You may not have known Sarah Chin personally, but you witnessed the way others interacted with her. Your efforts were absent. The allegation lingered ominously in the atmosphere. Marcus scrolled through the photos, pausing at one that sent a knot twisting in his stomach. Sarah Chan, in her final year, attempts to blend into the background, her thick glasses and braces framing a face that seems to retreat into itself, shoulders drawn in as if to escape notice. She has become a doctor now, Tom continued. Childhood surgical specialist. Quite remarkable for the girl everyone referred to. Stop, Marcus interrupted him. We were young and carefree. It was foolish. Show that you've matured. Invite her to the alumni ball. Marcus closed the photos and accessed the latest stock prices for Crawford Tech. She is unlikely to agree. Give it a shot regardless. Demonstrate to her that not everyone from that time was awful. I wasn't unkind to her. No, you were even worse. Your lack of concern was evident. Marcus's finger lingered just above the end call button. What makes this matter so much to you, Tom? A moment of stillness. I found myself among the least skilled. I am working to set things straight. Through my utilization, by allowing her the opportunity to reveal her true self to everyone, and perhaps offering you a glimpse as well. Marcus accessed his calendar application. The alumni ball was just 6 weeks away. All right, I will get in touch. However, when she declines, the responsibility falls on you. Agreed. Tom felt an overwhelming sense of relief. Her professional contact can be found on the alumni website. What about Marcus? Thank you very much. Once he ended the call, Marcus fixed his gaze on the phone for a prolonged moment before he opened his browser. A couple of clicks revealed Sarah Chen's professional profile at Boston Children's Hospital. The headshot captured a woman in a white coat, her glasses perched on her nose, her expression still one of caution. His fingers danced over the keyboard. Dear Dr. Chun, you might not recall our time at Valley High. My name is Marcus Crawford, and I graduated in 2015. I'm reaching out to invite you to our upcoming 10-year alumni ball. I would be delighted if you would join me as my guest. He removed it without hesitation. Not casual enough. Excessively artificial. He made another attempt. Hi Sarah. Tom Martinez recommended that I reach out to you regarding the upcoming alumni ball. While high school may not have been the most enjoyable period, the intercom emitted a buzz. Mr. Crawford, your appointment at 2 o'clock has arrived. Allow me just 5 minutes, please. Marcus inhaled deeply and struck the keys one final time. Hello, Sarah. My name is Marcus Crawford, and I hail from Valley High. To be honest, I'm uncertain about how to compose this email. Tom Martinez encouraged me to invite you to the alumni ball, but as I write this, I can't help but feel how forward this might come across. We never truly connected during our school days, and I was part of a group that inadvertently made things more difficult for you, even if it was just by my mere presence. I wish to accompany you to the ball, not from a sense of obligation or remorse, but because I believe we have both evolved into different individuals. Your journey to becoming a successful surgeon intrigues me, and I would truly love to hear your story. You're welcome to let me know if you'd prefer I disappear. Before he could spiral into doubt, he pressed send. As his 2 o'clock reached the midpoint of their presentation, a notification buzzed on his phone. You've received a new email from Dr. Sarah Chin. After a long time, Marcus Crawford experienced a tremor in his hands. Precision instrument. Sarah Chen's voice held a calm resolve, even amidst the palpable tension in the operating room. Her team operated with meticulous skill as she concentrated on the delicate features in front of her. Yet another procedure for cleft palate reconstruction. A new opportunity to transform a young person's future. The anesthesiologist reported a slight elevation in heart rates. Dr. Chun anticipated at this point. Let us move forward. The steady cadence of surgery anchored her, sweeping aside the unease that had lingered since she opened Marcus Crawford's email that morning. In the operating room, she was simply Dr. Chun. No record, no high school drama, only adept hands and steadfast concentration. 2 hours later, Sarah removed her surgical gloves and mask, rolling her shoulders to ease the tension. The surgery had gone well, almost like clockwork, yet her thoughts wandered back to the email that awaited a reply. Another flawless repair, remarked Dr. Lisa Wong, her mentor, as they finished scrubbing out. You are our top choice for pediatric facial reconstruction. Sarah offered a faint smile, simply fulfilling my responsibilities. In that moment, Lisa found herself leaning against the sink. The hospital board was very impressed with your proposal for the new craniofacial center. They have a keen interest in your focus on providing psychological support for patients. Personal experience helps, Sarah whispered under her breath, instantly wishing she could take it back. Lisa's demeanor became gentler. Oh, that brings to mind your high school reunion, doesn't it? The nurses were discussing it, especially since Angela is also going. Sarah dried her hands with an intensity that seemed excessive. This morning, I received an intriguing invitation. Oh, Marcus Crawford is inviting me to the alumni ball. Lisa's eyebrows arched in surprise. Crawford, the technology expert. He has recently captured media attention. Innovative medical software that transforms the landscape of healthcare. That's him. Sarah glanced at her phone. The email notification lingered, taunting her with its presence. This holds importance because Sarah sank into the break room couch, surrendering to the weight of her fatigue. He was among the favored crowd, never intentionally unkind, but her voice faded as memories of corridors filled with hushed conversations and suppressed giggles flooded her mind. Lisa settled next to her. And now he aspires to embody Prince Charming? It seems that Tom Martinez might have been the one to encourage him. He conveyed that in the email. Is it Tom Martinez? Was he not the one who initiated the ugly duckling chant during graduation? Indeed, that's the one. Sarah revisited the email once more. At least Marcus was straightforward about it. Lisa glanced back, her eyes trailing over the words. Unexpectedly authentic for someone in such a high position. However, you are not obligated to them, Sarah. I understand. Sarah paced the confines of the small room. Yet a part of me yearns to leave. Not for them, but for me to demonstrate that you achieved success in spite of them. Negative. Sarah paused at the window, gazing at the skyline of Boston. To prove to myself that I have moved beyond that fearful version of myself. I'm merely. She carefully adjusted her glasses. A fidgeting quirk she could never quite shake off. I'm not prepared to face their scrutiny once more. The phone vibrated in her pocket. Yet another consultation for surgery. A genuine vocation. Consider it overnight, Lisa suggested. Take your time to make a choice. As Sarah made her way to her next patient, a concept started to take shape. She pondered the masks they occasionally employed in the planning of reconstructive surgery, the manner in which they allow patients to envision possibilities without trepidation. As she made her way through the afternoon rounds, she composed and discarded 4 distinct replies to Marcus. At last, in the intervals between patient visits, she penned, Marcus, I value your straightforwardness regarding Tom's participation. In the spirit of transparency, I have steered clear of all alumni gatherings for clear reasons. Nonetheless, I have a suggestion. I will accompany you to the ball, but there is one stipulation. I plan to don a masquerade mask for the entire evening. My visage remains hidden until I decide otherwise. If that feels a bit unusual for you, I completely get it. Sarah. She pressed send before her resolve wavered. Then I was promptly summoned to the ER for a trauma consult. Hours later, as she wrapped up her notes, that she noticed his reply. Fascinating suggestion. Shall we chat about it over a cup of coffee? Sarah gazed at her phone, then at her image in the shadowy office window. The identical pair of glasses, the identical orthodontic treatment she had required once more in her 20s. Yet the gaze behind those spectacles had transformed. She began to type, "Tomorrow at 7 a.m. A blue bottle awaits on Congress Street, prior to my initial procedure." His reply was immediate. "I will be present." Tom Martinez gazed intently at his laptop screen, revamping Marcus's social media profile. For the 10th time that night, there are no new developments to report. There are no indications regarding Sarah's response to the email. "You're fixating once more," his wife Rachel remarked, placing a cup of tea next to him.
"I'm committed," Tom clarified,
running a hand through his silvering locks. At 32, he seemed far too young to bear such exhaustion. "This must succeed." Rachel sat on the arm of his chair. "You've never shared with me the significance of this to you." With a heavy heart, Tom shut his laptop, letting out a deep sigh. "Do you recall that box of forgotten treasures I stumbled upon during our move? The one that left you feeling off for a week?" Indeed. He extended his hand toward the cup of tea. A notebook lay within that space. "During my final year, brimming with unfortunate actions we intended to take against Sarah Chun at graduation." Rachel's expression grew somber. "Are we? I was the orchestrator." The confession was akin to gulping shards of glass. "We planned to bring her down one final time, create an unforgettable experience. However, you chose not to." Negative. "Had a sudden change of heart just before the final moment. Yet I never offered an apology. Never got it right." He retrieved his phone, glancing at it for messages once more. "Did you know she has become a pediatric surgeon now? Focuses on pediatric reconstructive surgery." "Appropriate," Rachel whispered. "Could you clarify what you mean?" "She transforms appearances for a career, having endured ridicule for her own during her adolescence." Tom's phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. Passage penned by Marcus. "Meeting up with Sarah for coffee tomorrow morning." Content? Indeed, Tom responded, then continued to elaborate. "Make sure to get this right." Marcus replied without hesitation. "I still can't grasp why it matters to you." Tom began to type repeatedly before finally deciding on, "Believe me when I say this." Rachel glanced at the conversation unfolding over his shoulder. "You haven't mentioned it to him either. What did you tell him?" "I have been making anonymous contributions to Sarah's pediatric department for the last 5 years. I keep up with her research publications. Whenever I come across a picture showcasing her achievements, it brings to mind the way we once treated her. Perhaps you ought to consider it." Tom shook his head in disbelief. "This isn't about my own sense of well-being. It's about offering her the evening we attempted to steal from her." Once more, his phone vibrated with a notification. A message from the Alumni Association. The venue requested the final headcount for the ball. As the leader of the association, it would be essential for him to begin gathering RSVPs shortly. "You know," Rachel said thoughtfully, "playing matchmaker isn't really the same as making amends. I have no intention of playing matchmaker. I'm offering them an opportunity they've never experienced before." Marcus stood apart from the rest of us in a way that was unmistakable. He seems to be more absorbed in his coding than in our trivial games. He accessed her hospital profile. She should confidently enter that ball, linked to the most accomplished individual in our class. What if it goes wrong? Tom reflected on the notebook, now reduced to ash in the fireplace. At last, I will reveal everything to her. Concerning the strategy, the contributions, everything related. Rachel gently pressed her hand on his shoulder. "You're a remarkable individual, Tom Martinez." He made a correction. "I'm working towards that goal." His phone illuminated with yet another message from Marcus. "What does she like to drink when it comes to coffee?" Tom beamed with delight. There are certain truths that one must uncover on their own. At 6:55 a.m., the Blue Bottle coffee shop stood almost vacant as Marcus made his entrance. He requested 2 of each item that seemed suitable for breakfast. The barista, uncertain of Sarah's tastes, arched an eyebrow at the extravagant order, yet chose to remain silent. At precisely 7 a.m., the door chimed. Sarah Chun entered, clad in scrubs beneath a winter coat, her hair neatly secured in a practical ponytail. She took a moment, her gaze sweeping across the room until it landed on him. "You ordered enough for a surgical team," she remarked, settling into the seat opposite him. "I was uncertain about your preferences." He nudged the assortment of pastries into the center of the table. "I recall that you often packed your own lunch for school." She stated plainly that braces made it difficult to eat most cafeteria food, opting for a simple croissant. "I still possess them, as you can observe." Phase 2 of dental alignment treatment. Marcus made an effort to avert his gaze from the metal brackets. "They appear polished and sophisticated. There's no need to praise my braces." She savored a sip of coffee. "Let's discuss your email." He adjusted his posture in the chair. "Listen, regarding Tom." "I have no interest in Tom's motivations," she interrupted. "Your concerns matter to me. What made you decide to go along with this?" Marcus weighed his words with great thoughtfulness. "To be frank, initially due to Tom's ability to influence others." "So, you mean after you searched for me online?" "After delving into your work," he remarked, "I became intrigued. Pediatric reconstructive surgery is truly remarkable." Sarah delicately shattered her croissant into minuscule fragments. "Is this the moment when you mention that true worth lies in inner beauty? This is the moment I inquire about your concept for the masquerade." He inclined his body slightly, drawing closer. "What is the purpose of a mask?" "Because I desire an evening where individuals must engage in conversation with me before forming their opinions." She locked her gaze with his. "Your business operates in the technology sector. It is essential to grasp the idea of managing variables. So I'm involved in your social experiment? Am I not a part of your world?" The inquiry lingered in the air between them. Outside, Boston stirred to life. Roads bustling with travelers. "That's a valid observation," Marcus finally remarked. "However, if we proceed with this, establishing some foundational guidelines is essential." Sarah retrieved her phone from her pocket. "I have a surgery scheduled in 40 minutes, so let's get to the point. First and foremost, I must keep my identity a secret from everyone at the ball." "Absolutely." Rule 2. You mustn't linger in the shadows all night. Third rule, no photographs. The Alumni Association will feature photographers. Then I depart before the disguises are shed. She glanced at the clock. Rule 4. If anyone inquires, we crossed paths again not long ago at a conference focused on medical technology. Not completely untrue. Last month I attended MedTech Boston. Thus it dawned on Marcus. Clearly various sessions. Clearly. Sarah rose, collecting her belongings. "This is not a fairy tale romance. I refuse to be your project or your path to atonement." "Absolutely." He rose as well. "But what could it possibly be?" Sarah hesitated, her hand resting on her bag. "Two individuals are opting to confront their history in a way that feels right for them." She made her way to the door, only to pause and glance back. "Ah, and Marcus. Indeed? Next time, opt for a simple black coffee and a plain croissant. Many of us prefer simplicity when it comes to breakfast." Once she departed, Marcus gazed at the pristine array of pastries, then shifted his attention to his phone, where Tom's most recent message illuminated the screen. "How did it turn out?" "She accepted," he wrote. "However, I believe we find ourselves in a situation that exceeds our grasp." Tom replied promptly. "Excellent. It's high time you both picked up swimming skills." 2 weeks following their initial encounter, Marcus and Sarah found themselves in a new coffee shop, this time during the late afternoon hours. Medical journals lay scattered across the table between them, accompanied by printouts of previous alumni ball photographs. "These masks are awful," Sarah remarked, browsing through pictures from a Venetian-themed fundraiser. "They hardly address anything at all." "Would you prefer a full face mask?" Marcus inquired, his gaze fixed on the medical journal he was feigning comprehension of. "Similar to the tale of the Phantom of the Opera." I was considering something more elaborate than that. She retrieved her tablet, revealing a design to him. Something along these lines. The illustration depicted a detailed mask adorned with intricate metal designs and shimmering crystals, reaching from the forehead down to the cheekbones. He remarked on the high cost. I have the means to cover it. Her tone had a subtle sharpness. Surgeons earn a respectable income. I never intended. I understand your point. She became a bit gentler. However, this isn't about finances. It revolves around power. Marcus placed the journal on the table. May I pose a question to you? It varies based on the inquiry. What is the reason for agreeing to this in the first place? It would have been possible for you to overlook my email. Move forward with your journey. Sarah paused, her spoon gently swirling through the coffee. Have you ever heard what I share with my patients prior to facial reconstruction? Excuse me? Transforming their appearance won't alter their true essence. It simply allows the world to perceive them with greater clarity. She locked her gaze with his. I'm not concealing myself behind the facade. Marcus. I'm compelling others to perceive me with clarity for the very first time. What is it that I'm meant to observe? The choice is yours. She meticulously arranged the journals into a tidy stack. However, we must begin with some practice. What should I practice? Making an appearance together in public. The event is in 4 weeks. If we arrive without a clue on how to interact with one another, it will be apparent to those around us. Marcus reclined in his seat. What are your recommendations? An evening meal, open spaces, everyday dialogues. She glanced at her calendar. I'm available Thursday evening. Are you interested in practicing our dating skills? I desire to cultivate a sense of ease between us, so that it becomes unquestionable why you chose to bring me to the ball. She raised her gaze. Unless that makes you uneasy? Indeed, it makes sense. He retrieved his phone from his pocket. Thursday is good. Where is it? A tranquil place. There's no possibility of encountering anyone from Valley High. There's a spot in Cambridge that I'm familiar with. Cozy Italian eatery. Excellent. She rose, collecting her belongings. And Marcus. Indeed? Choose something casual. No expensive suits. We're focusing on finding our own comfort rather than seeking to impress others. As she departed, Marcus came to the startling realization that he had just consented to engage in a charade of romance, all in preparation for an upcoming ball where they would don masks. His phone vibrated with a message from Tom. Is there any update? Marcus examined the medical journals that Sarah had abandoned, each filled with her published articles. It's complicated, he replied. Tom replied without hesitation. Isn't that the essence? Marcus gazed at the message, then shifted his attention to the intricate design of Sarah's mask resting on the table. Complex, hardly scratched the surface. When do you need it by? The skilled craftswoman, an elderly lady named Eleanor, gazed at Sarah through her half-moon spectacles. In 3 weeks' time, Sarah extended her tablet, revealing the design. I understand it's a bit hurried, but hastened? Eleanor chuckled as she accepted the tablet. This cannot be done. The metalwork itself would require a fortnight to complete. Sarah felt a heavy weight in her chest. I am willing to offer additional compensation. Take a seat. Eleanor gestured towards a workbench, strewn with masks at different stages of their creation. In a hidden corner of Boston's North End, her studio exuded the distinct aromas of paint and metal polish. Explain the significance of this mask. Sarah sat delicately on the edge of the bench. The situation is intricate. Life simply exists. Eleanor examined the design closely. This is not a Halloween mask. This is protection. Is that a negative thing? It varies based on the battle at hand. Eleanor placed the tablet aside and grabbed a measuring tape. Remain motionless. While the artisan meticulously measured her face, Sarah's gaze drifted to the photographs adorning the walls. Stage performances, masked soirees, intricate attire. For how long have you been creating masks? For decades. Begun in Venice, guided by my father's wisdom. Eleanor took a step back, jotting down figures in a tattered notebook. Every mask reveals a narrative. What do you have? Sarah paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind. Gathering of former classmates. Eleanor's knowing smile left Sarah feeling uneasy. The most challenging arena of all. It isn't quite that way. Not at all? Eleanor arched an eyebrow. So, what's the purpose of creating a mask that conceals everything except your eyes? Sarah brushed her fingers over her braces, a hint of self-consciousness in her demeanor. I desire for others to perceive me in a new light. Or perhaps, Eleanor closed her notebook, you wish to perceive them in another light. It hadn't crossed Sarah's mind. Could you clarify what you mean? Behind a mask, you can watch the world unfold without hesitation. To evaluate those who have evaluated you. Eleanor grasped a partially completed mask from her workbench. Exercise caution. Masks can transform into prisons if you allow them to. Sarah observed as Eleanor started to draw alterations to her design. Is it truly possible to have it completed in 3 weeks? For the perfect narrative, I will bring it to life. Eleanor raised her gaze. However, we must first discuss the eyes. What is their story? They are the one aspect that remains exposed. Are you prepared for others to truly notice them? Sarah recalled Marcus, the way he had gazed at her in the coffee shop, not with disdain or scrutiny, but with authentic interest. Indeed, she replied at last. I believe I am. Eleanor nodded, content with her decision. Please return next week for a fitting. What about Sarah? What is it? Please provide a picture of the dress. The mask should enhance, not overshadow. As Sarah strolled back to her car, her phone vibrated in her pocket. A message from Marcus. Discovered an ideal dining spot for Thursday. Is it laid back enough? A photo of a charming trattoria was attached. Sarah couldn't help but smile. He was making an effort. Excellent, she responded. Just keep in mind, no $1,000 suits, he replied without hesitation. I will don a pair of jeans. Sarah took a moment before continuing, the mask will be ready on schedule. His response arrived promptly. I always had complete confidence in it. In truth, she hadn't either. Yet, the resonance of Eleanor's words lingered in her thoughts. Masks might transform into prisons. The inquiry was, who was she truly attempting to confine? Them or themselves? Marcus lingered in his office under the dim glow of the computer screen, lost in thought as the night deepened around him. Sarah's published research papers cluttered his browser tabs. Research on reconstructive procedures for children's faces, cutting-edge surgical methods, evaluations of psychological effects. At that moment, his assistant Rachel made her entrance, standing at the door. Simply conduct research. He swiftly minimized the windows. Regarding Dr. Chun? Once more, Rachel placed a pile of contracts on the table. It seems that most people simply scroll through Facebook. She isn't on Facebook. He noticed Rachel's knowing glance. I suppose she isn't. Indeed, Rachel rested against his desk. Curious about what caught my attention? I have no doubt you'll share that with me. The wing of the children's hospital that you financed last year? She is employed there, particularly in the craniofacial unit you financed. Marcus stood still. Excuse me? Were you unaware? Rachel accessed the hospital's website. Physician, Dr. Sarah Chun, the chief surgeon at the Crawford Children's Surgical Center. Did they give it a name? You provided them with $20 million. Naturally, they gave it a name. Marcus reclined, contemplating. Is she aware? Are you the one who donated? Most likely not. You were quite determined to remain anonymous. He recalled the reason. He despised the notion of being in the spotlight, of receiving accolades for merely signing a check. That choice carried a unique weight. His phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. Sarah, Thursday needs to be rescheduled. Urgent surgical procedure? Is everything all right? He responded with a message. A 6-year-old presenting with facial trauma. It may require several hours. He cast a fleeting look at the hospital's website, where the surgical center proudly displayed his name. Feel free to take as much time as you require. How about Friday instead? I appreciate your understanding. Friday is suitable. Marcus gazed intently at the message before shifting his focus to the hospital website. Is that you, Rachel? What's that? Have I made the correct choice? Maintaining a low profile? Rachel pondered this. It varies. Are you avoiding the spotlight? Or steering clear of connection? What sets them apart? It pertains to the essence of humility. The other focuses on fear. Once more, his phone vibrated with a notification. Sarah had shared a picture. The mask is currently being crafted. Intricate metalwork is starting to emerge. It is truly beautiful, he penned. It's on its way, she replied. Similar to all other things. Marcus gazed at the array of tabs open in his browser. The focus of her investigation, her achievements, the lives she had transformed. Lives improved in a center he had supported, unaware that she was part of it. Is that you, Rachel? Indeed. Make sure my Friday evening is free. Completed. She approached the door, then hesitated. Sometimes the most meaningful connections are the unexpected ones. Once she departed, Marcus delved into one of Sarah's research papers. The introduction stated, in facial reconstruction, success is gauged not by flawlessness, but by the revival of function and self-assurance. He pondered over disguises and wealth, reflecting on the myriad ways individuals conceal their authentic identities. The anticipation for Friday was palpable. Tom Martinez sat at his desk at Valley High, where he now served as vice principal, gazing intently at his phone. The most recent message from Marcus illuminated the screen. Dinner had to be rescheduled. She is performing urgent surgery. Are you still in the matchmaking game? Headmaster Diana Chin, not connected to Sarah, inquired from his threshold. Not quite. Tom slipped his phone into his pocket, more akin to seeking reconciliation. Diana stepped inside, gently shutting the door behind her. Is this regarding the alumni ball? Somewhat. He motioned toward the chair opposite him. Do you recall Sarah Chin? Group of 15? The girl whom all eyes are drawn to. Diana's voice faded into silence. Indeed, her. What about her story? Tom accessed Sarah's hospital profile on his computer, pivoting the screen to face Diana. She has become a pediatric surgeon now, specialist in reconstruction. Diana leaned in, engrossed in the words before her. Remarkable. But how does this relate to you? I arranged for her to go with Marcus Crawford to the ball. He paused, anticipating Diana's response. Who is Marcus Crawford? The affluent innovator? Diana scowled. What is the reason? Due to... Tom stood, moving back and forth. I treated her poorly. My friends and I. We turned her existence into a nightmare. That was a decade ago. Precisely. For a decade, this burden has been mine to bear. He paused at the window, gazing out at the football field that had witnessed so much of the torment. Have you heard that I've been following her career closely? That raises some worries. That's not the way. He glanced over his shoulder. I contribute to her department, in a manner that conceals one's identity. I perused her research papers. He settled back into his chair. I'm working to find equilibrium. Diana fell silent for a moment. Is she aware of any of this? Negative. And she is unable to. Not at this moment. Why not indeed? This isn't about my own comfort. He accessed the document for planning the alumni ball. It's all about crafting that one unforgettable evening for her. The individual we attempted to sabotage during graduation. And Marcus, he is distinct from who he was at that time. Concentrated. Determined. Similar to her. Tom offered a faint smile. Last week they enjoyed dinner together. They will convene once more on Friday. Diana rose to her feet. Please exercise caution, Tom. Manipulating the fates of individuals. It has the potential to go awry. I understand, but you really ought to witness their dynamic together. They are both incredibly cautious, genuine. He glanced at his phone once more. There are currently no new messages. In their conversations, the facade slips away. Diana approached the door, then hesitated. Do you realize the irony here? Excuse me? You're the one hiding behind the grandest facade of them all. Once she departed, Tom reviewed his donation records. The payment to the hospital for next month was approaching its due date. His personal atonement settled in monthly contributions. The phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. Marcus discovered an intriguing detail regarding Sarah's hospital. Tom's heart froze in place. What is that? I inadvertently provided financial support to her department. A donation was made anonymously last year. Tom exhaled deeply. One secret remained untouched, preserved in the shadows. It's amusing how everything falls into place, he replied. As he gazed at his own donation records, a thought crept in. Was Diana onto something? Perhaps he donned the grandest disguise of them all. That outfit isn't going to work, Sarah said bluntly, her gaze fixed on Marcus's attire during their video call. The event was set for tomorrow, and they were conducting final preparations. What seems to be the issue? Marcus cast a quick look at his tuxedo. It's just a bit too. Sarah waved her hand dismissively, like something a CEO would say. It's a sphere, he argued. All will be attired elegantly. Indeed, but you seem as if you've just emerged from the pages of Forbes. She adjusted her laptop screen. The main objective is to seamlessly integrate. Don't forget? Marcus relaxed his bow tie. All right, what are your recommendations? The charcoal suit you donned for dinner last week. Fewer financial institutions, greater humanity. He slipped out of view, only to reappear moments later clad in the other suit. Improved? Considerably. She lifted her own garment bag with a sense of purpose. Care to take a look? Isn't that just unfortunate or something? Those are weddings. As she unzipped the bag, a stunning midnight blue gown emerged, captivating in its elegance. Uncomplicated, refined, devoid of ostentation. It's flawless, he murmured softly. With swift precision, Sarah re-zipped the bag. Elena will be delivering the mask this evening. Last fitting. Feeling anxious? Regarding the choice to conceal oneself from those who caused distress a decade ago. She tried to laugh. What reason do I have to feel anxious? Marcus positioned himself nearer to his camera. We still have the option to withdraw. Absolutely not. She exhibited a strong resolve. This is something I must accomplish. Simply, she paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind. Hold on tight to my hand as we step inside. Commitment. He glanced at his watch. On the subject of Elena, I suppose it's time for me to let you go. Indeed. Sarah extended her hand toward her laptop to conclude the call, but hesitated. Is that you, Marcus? Indeed. Thanks a lot. In regard to comprehension. Once the call concluded, Sarah gazed at her image in the dim glow of the laptop screen. The phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. Elena, step outside, clad in your armor, brave one. With a steadying breath, Sarah made her way down the stairs. Tomorrow will alter the course of everything, for better or worse. Across town, Marcus slipped into his regular clothes, his phone buzzing with a message from Tom. Is everything prepared? As prepared as we can possibly be, he replied. Best of luck, Tom replied. What about Marcus? Look after her well. Marcus gazed at his reflection, making a final adjustment to his tie. I will, he typed, feeling a deeper conviction than he had anticipated. The ballroom of the Grand Plaza Hotel shimmered under the glow of crystal chandeliers and gleamed with polished marble. Sarah lingered in Marcus's car, her fingers gliding over the contours of Elena's creation. A mask adorned with silver filigree and delicate crystals that shimmered in the light like glistening teardrops. Are you prepared? Marcus inquired gently. Negative. She fastened the mask, scrutinizing it in the visor mirror. However, let's proceed regardless. As they strolled through the hotel lobby, her fingers intertwined with his. A sense of connection enveloped them. A handful of early arrivals lingered, yet none appeared to acknowledge their presence. At the ballroom entrance, Tom stood ready with name tags and programs in hand. Marcus Crawford and Tom's voice wavered slightly. Visitor. Sarah accepted her blank name tag in silence. Marcus tightened his grip on her hand. The room was partially occupied. Sarah encountered familiar faces she had long sought to erase from her memory. Ashley Peters, the one who initiated the unflattering chance. Jason Roberts, who had playfully invited her to prom. They all appeared more mature, typical, human. Care for a drink? Marcus extended his offer. Kindly. As he made his way to the bar, a voice from behind exclaimed, "Marcus Crawford, is that really you?" Sarah glanced over to spot Jennifer Mills making her way toward her, as captivating as ever, effortlessly drawing everyone's gaze. She halted abruptly at the sight of Sarah. "Who might you be?" Sarah's eyes twinkled with a hint of joy, even as her mask concealed her smile. "What about his date?" Jennifer's gaze sharpened. "Have we crossed paths before? There's an intriguing quality about you. I have my reservations." Sarah's voice exuded tranquility and composure. "I'm not a local." Marcus came back with the beverages. "Is that you, Jen?" He inclined his head with a courteous gesture. "How's LA? You won't believe the exciting news about my new venture." Jennifer began her tale, hardly sparing a look at Sarah. Behind her mask, Sarah observed, analyzed. Those individuals who had once appeared so formidable, so fearsome, now seemed unremarkable. Jen's laugh echoed a bit too boisterously. Her gestures seemed somewhat rehearsed. A greater number of classmates drew near. Marcus navigated the introductions with finesse, keeping Sarah's identity under wraps. She responded only when addressed, her tone assured beneath her armor of silver and crystal. "Are you involved in the field of medicine?" A question was posed. "Operation." Her response was straightforward. "What was the story of your first encounter?" "Conference on medical technology." Marcus responded. The polished deception flows effortlessly. As the evening unfolded, Sarah became aware of an unusual occurrence. She felt a newfound courage within her. These individuals, her past oppressors, wielded no influence over her. Their views held no significance. The phone vibrated in her hand. A note from Eleanor. "How is the armor faring?" Sarah surveyed the room, her gaze lingering on the familiar faces that had once filled her nights with restless thoughts. "I believe I no longer require it," she replied. Eleanor replied without hesitation. "In that case, it is performing precisely as intended." Sarah grazed her fingers along Marcus's arm. "Shall we dance together?" He appeared taken aback, yet delighted. "Absolutely." As they swayed to the rhythm, she glimpsed their reflection in the shimmering mirrors of the ballroom. A man of success and a woman in disguise, both at last gaining clarity. "Thank you," she murmured. "For what purpose?" "For allowing me the space to conceal myself until I was prepared to emerge." His grip on her waist grew firmer. "The evening still has much to offer." She grinned subtly beneath her disguise. For the first time, she felt a sense of anticipation for what lay ahead. "Ah, enigmatic lady." Ashley Peters gracefully settled into the seat beside Sarah at the dinner table. "What's your hidden gem?" "What I hold close to my heart." With deliberate precision, Sarah placed her fork on the table. "How did you manage to get Marcus Crawford on board?" Ashley inched forward, her wineglass swaying gently from her fingertips. Many of the girls present have been vying for his attention throughout the evening. Sarah sensed the tension radiating from Marcus beside her. "Perhaps I simply posed thoughtful inquiries rather than launching myself at him," she remarked calmly. A short distance away, an individual suddenly sputtered on their beverage. Ashley's smile grew strained. Ashley went on, "It seems like your voice is so recognizable. Did you attend Valley High?" "She attended boarding school," Marcus interjected seamlessly, "in Switzerland." "Is that so?" Ashley's gaze sharpened. "Yet you found yourselves at a medical conference together. How delightful." Sarah adjusted her posture in the chair. "Indeed, Marcus." Tom's voice resonated powerfully across the table. "Your presence is requested for the alumni achievement photo." Marcus gently clasped Sarah's hand before rising to his feet. "I'll return shortly." Once he was gone, Ashley sprang into action. "Honestly, who are you? I'm familiar with all the girls Marcus went out with in high school, and you don't quite fit his typical preference." Sarah paused to take a sip of water, creating a moment of suspense. Behind her mask, she observed Ashley intently. The subtle lines at the corners of her eyes, the anxious manner in which she kept fiddling with her hair. What kind of person was he drawn to? Well, you see, attractive and well-liked. Ashley's smile became sharp and calculating. Ordinary. The term lingered in the atmosphere surrounding them. Sarah sensed a change within her. Neither anger nor fear, but an unusual kind of pity. Conformity is dull, she murmured softly. So, Ashley, it seems you remain exactly the same, don't you? Ashley's glass halted midway to her lips. Could you repeat that? Just as Sarah was about to reply, Marcus made his entrance once more. Is everything all right here? Excellent. Sarah rose to her feet. Ashley found herself lost in thoughts of high school. Didn't she? Ashley gazed at her, understanding gradually taking shape. Hold on, you can't be. Movement? Sarah faced Marcus, dismissing Ashley's stammering. On the dance floor, Marcus drew her near. Are you all right? More than just fine. Sarah observed Ashley leaning in closely, her voice a hurried whisper directed at Jennifer Mills. It seems they are beginning to understand. Thinking of departing? Negative. She leaned her head gently against his shoulder. For the very first time, I wish to remain. From his vantage point, Tom observed their movements on the dance floor, a subtle smile gracing his face. His phone vibrated, a message from the hospital's donor portal. Contribution for the month has been received. He gazed at Sarah, poised and elegant behind her mask, while Marcus remained transfixed by her presence throughout the evening. At times, he mused, salvation arrived through unforeseen avenues. The melody shifted to a more languid tune. Sarah and Marcus continued to dance, unaware of the murmurs swirling around them. The mask captured the light, casting intricate patterns on the floor reminiscent of twinkling stars. Is that really the case? Jennifer Mills confronted Sarah near the restroom. Are you truly? Sarah repositioned her mask. What exactly? Sarah Chin. Jennifer's voice fell to a hushed tone. Ashley insists it's you. The corridor abruptly seemed constricted. Sarah cast her eyes toward the ballroom, where Marcus engaged in conversation with a few of his former classmates. Would it make a difference if I were? Sarah inquired. Jennifer displayed an air of unease, her discomfort evident in her demeanor. Let's talk about high school. Refrain. Sarah raised her hand. I'm not seeking any apologies. So what brings you here? Sarah pondered the question. Behind the mask, she observed Jennifer's features intently. The doubt reflected in her gaze, the subtle shake of her fingers. Ultimately, Sarah admitted, it was because I needed to see something. Excuse me? That you all are simply
Individuals.
not creatures, not deities, simply imperfect, everyday individuals who committed unkind acts in their youth. Jennifer recoiled. We were young and carefree. Indeed, we were. Sarah adjusted the fabric of her dress with a gentle touch. And now we have reached adulthood. Let's embrace that idea. She pivoted to depart. However, Jennifer seized her arm. Hold on. I have a daughter. Sarah came to a halt. Is that all right? She'll be entering middle school next year. And I can't help but feel a sense of dread. Jennifer's voice trembled, frightened that she might end up like me. Or worse, that others will experience what I did to her. A sensation in Sarah's chest began to ease. What is her name? Lucy. If you're concerned about Lucy, Sarah said thoughtfully, then you've already grown into a better person than you were at 17. Jennifer dabbed at her tears. How can you possess such serene regarding all matters? Sarah brushed her fingers against her mask. Because I refuse to conceal myself any longer. I am deciding who perceives me and in what manner. The grand ballroom doors swung open, revealing Marcus in all his splendor. All is well here. All right, Sarah replied with sincerity. Jennifer was sharing a story about her daughter. A glimmer of comprehension crossed Marcus's face. He extended his arm to Sarah, prepared to dive back in. In that moment, Sarah's gaze shifted from Jennifer to Marcus, capturing the tension in the air. I believe I'm prepared for a new chapter. She extended her hand toward the mask's fastening. Do you really think so? Marcus murmured softly. Sarah gave a slight nod. Certain injuries require exposure to the elements for proper recovery. With careful precision, She loosened the ribbons that secured Elena's masterpiece. The mask peeled back gradually, unveiling her face, complete with braces and glasses, to Jennifer's astonished stare. "Greetings, Jen," Sarah murmured gently. "It has been some time." The stillness lingered in the air, a vast expanse yearning for connection. On a brisk Monday morning, just 3 days post-ball, Sarah found herself in the surgical prep room, intently examining her patient's scans. Emily Crawford, age 6. The urgent situation from the previous week. She had assumed there was no connection to Marcus. "Is Dr. Chun available?" A nurse peeked in. "The uncle has arrived to complete the consent forms." Sarah acknowledged with a nod, her gaze fixed elsewhere. "Let him come in." "Sarah." She stood still at the sound of the recognizable voice. As she turned gradually, her gaze landed on Marcus in the doorway, his attire a stark contrast to the polished image of a CEO, appearing rather disheveled. "Is that your uncle, Emily?" "Indeed." He swept his fingers through his hair. "This morning I realized you were her surgeon." Sarah reviewed the scans once more. The intricate facial fractures resulting from a vehicular collision. The intricate restoration required. "Why didn't you speak up?" "I aimed to ensure you felt at ease." He moved in, examining the visuals intently. "Additionally, I just discovered that this is the surgical center I supported financially." Sarah's head jerked upward. "Excuse me? Unattributed contribution? What about the previous year?" He locked his gaze with hers. "I had no idea you were part of this place." The elements fell into alignment. The latest gear, the broadened initiative, the nameplate she walked by each morning. Crawford Children's Surgical Center. Indeed, she succeeded. "This situation feels quite uncomfortable. Sarah, I need to prepare for my upcoming surgery." She collected her notes. "The forms will be brought to you by the nurse." "Hold on." He grasped her arm softly. "Your trust means a lot to me. It's not about the game, the meals we share, or any of those things. I have complete confidence in you as I have thoroughly examined all your published works. I recognize your exceptional talent." She gazed at his hand resting on her arm. "I must get this right." "You will not." He let her go. "What about Sarah?" "Thanks a lot. To remove the mask on Friday. To reveal your true self to the world." Her mind wandered to the image of Jennifer's face. Among the discussions that ensued, of ancient scars at last starting to mend. "Your niece," she stated with assurance, "is in capable hands." "I understand." He grinned. "Your hands are your own." Once he departed, Sarah revisited Emily's scans. A message from Elena appeared on her phone. "What is it like, warrior, to be recognized?" Sarah caressed her face. "Unveiled. Unguarded. Just a skilled professional ready to perform her craft with precision." "Feels just right," she replied. Then she proceeded to prepare for the procedure. "Is that you, Uncle Marcus?" Emily's soft voice was obscured by the layers of bandages. "Will I appear like my usual self again?" Marcus lifted his gaze from the laptop that had been his companion for the last 3 days in the hospital room. Sarah's surgery went well, yet the path to recovery would require patience. "Hey there, you already seem absolutely wonderful to me. However, the other children will feel envious," he concluded, shifting to take a seat on her bed. "For you possess a courage that surpasses theirs altogether." A sudden knock at the door broke the moment. Sarah stepped inside, tablet in hand, her white coat pristine even at this late hour. "How is my favorite patient doing?" she inquired, monitoring Emily's vital signs. "Dr. Chun brings me comfort," Emily shared with Marcus. With a smile, Sarah adjusted her glasses and mentioned that she also has braces. "Absolutely. And can you believe it? I faced teasing about them during my younger years as well." "Is that so?" Emily brightened. "What actions did you take?" "I chose to pursue a career as a surgeon specializing in facial reconstruction." Sarah positioned herself beside Emily. Sometimes, the most resilient individuals are those who truly understand the experience of feeling out of place. Marcus observed the scene before him, his niece alongside the woman he had once hesitated to truly acknowledge during their high school days. Sarah locked eyes with him, and an unvoiced connection lingered in the air. Emily requires some downtime, while Sarah maintained her composed demeanor, the professional facade firmly in position. We will conduct another assessment tomorrow. Dr. Chun, Emily's voice rang out just as Sarah approached the door. Could you share more tales with me tomorrow? On the topic of uniqueness? Sarah hesitated for a moment before turning back, her smile warm and sincere.
Yes, sur you.
Once Emily drifted off, Marcus discovered Sarah in her office, meticulously going over the post-op notes. He expressed his gratitude with a simple, "Thank you." She raised her gaze. "For the procedure to demonstrate to my niece that uniqueness can be lovely." Sarah placed her pen on the table. "At the ball, when I removed the mask, it wasn't merely for the eyes of others. It was an unveiling for myself as well. What did you observe? The authentic version of myself has always been sufficient." She locked her gaze with his. "I simply required the appropriate audience to notice it." Marcus moved in closer. "I perceive it clearly now. It's better to arrive late than not at all," she murmured gently. They remained in that moment, at last perceiving one another with clarity, devoid of any facades. "You really don't need to do this," Marcus remarked, observing Sarah as she meticulously organized the files on her desk. A week had gone by since Emily's surgery. "Indeed, I do." She raised an envelope high. "The hospital board must arrange a meeting with their anonymous benefactor. Sarah, the Crawford Children's Surgical Center requires an expansion." She stood tall, adjusting her lab coat with precision. "And the one it's named after ought to witness precisely what his investment has created." They strolled through the pediatric ward side by side. Sarah highlighted the new equipment, introduced the staff, and guided him through the waiting room where parents endured anxious hours. Every pause unveiled yet another dimension of the universe she had crafted in this place. "And this," she paused at a wall adorned with children's artwork, "is our collection of courageous expressions." Marcus examined the illustrations, self-portraits created by patients, some completed before surgery and others afterward. In every instance, the child had illustrated themselves beaming with joy. "Emily's will be up there shortly," Sarah murmured gently. "She is currently engaged in the task." Marcus confessed he was completely unaware. "When I contributed, my sole intention was to offer assistance." She turned to face him, acknowledging that he had done more than just help. "You provided children like me an opportunity to be perceived in a new light, to view themselves in a new way." A nurse rushed in with charts that needed Sarah's signature. As she reviewed them, Marcus observed her, exuding confidence, concentration, and a sense of being entirely in her zone. A soft voice whispered, "Dr. Chun." They glanced over to spot Emily, making her way slowly alongside her mother. The bandages had shrunk, exposing the skin beneath that was mending beautifully. "Check this out," Emily said, gesturing towards her progress chart. "Just 2 more days until the bandages are finally removed." Sarah lowered herself to meet her gaze. "And you're showing incredible courage, just as we discussed." Emily acknowledged with a nod, her gaze shifting to Marcus. "Uncle Marcus, have you come to visit Dr. Chen's unique spot as well?" In fact, Sarah responded while on her feet. Uncle Marcus played a pivotal role in creating this remarkable place. Emily's eyes grew large with surprise. Truly, Marcus remarked. "However, Dr. Chun transformed it into something extraordinary." "Are we working together as a unit?" Emily inquired. Sarah and Marcus shared a knowing look. "Indeed," Sarah murmured gently, "as a cohesive unit." Once Emily departed for her physical therapy, they remained in a serene quietude, observing the bustling corridor. "You know," Marcus finally said, "it's common for teams to grab coffee together." Sarah arched an eyebrow. "Are you hinting at wanting to go out with me?" Once more, this time devoid of rehearsals or disguises. She feigned contemplation. "I suppose I could schedule you in. However, Marcus, indeed, I continue to enjoy my coffee without any additions." He grinned. "It lingers in my mind." Tom Martinez lingered in his office at Valley High, his gaze fixed on his phone. Displayed on the screen was an image that Sarah had shared on the hospital's professional network. Emily Crawford, with her bandages off, beams alongside Dr. Chan and her uncle, the generous donor. At last, a confession? Diana inquired from the threshold. Concerning what topic? The contributions you make each month to her department. Tom slipped his phone into his pocket. Not at this moment. When will it happen? In the near future. He rose, collecting his belongings. However, today is not that day. As Sarah completed her rounds at the hospital, Marcus approached her, holding 2 steaming coffee cups. Still dark? He extended one to her. Is it still flawless? She savored a sip. Emily's discharge documents are prepared. That's precisely the reason for my presence. He squirmed in his seat. She is inviting you to her welcome home celebration. Is that you, Marcus? Just like her doctor, he added swiftly. Take your time. Sarah observed him intently as she sipped her coffee. What if I chose to arrive as something different? What do you mean? Like an individual who's finally prepared to cease rehearsing and begin experiencing life. Marcus placed his cup on the table. It seems the moment has finally arrived. From the nurse's station, Tom observed in silence. The device vibrated in his pocket. A communication from the hospital's contribution platform. Monthly contribution has been successfully processed. With a subtle smile, he composed a brief reply and departed silently. Some masks, he concluded, could linger a bit longer. In the hospital corridor, Sarah and Marcus stood side by side, their coffee cups neglected as they contemplated a future that had taken them both by surprise. Behind them, Emily's artwork adorned the wall, showcasing a collection of courageous faces. A sketch featuring herself, her uncle, and her doctor, all beaming and unmasked. As Tom drove away, he pondered how often the most captivating tales seemed to unfold effortlessly on their own. The annual fundraiser for the Crawford Children's Surgical Center was bustling with activity. Sarah positioned herself at the podium, engaging the audience of benefactors and healthcare professionals. Once, this center stood as a sanctuary for recovery. Today, it has evolved into a realm of change. In the audience, Marcus sat next to Emily, who was now fully recovered and beaming with pride as she displayed her science fair medal. Beside them, Tom Martinez fidgeted anxiously in his seat. From the very start, we've been fortunate to have 2 anonymous benefactors, Sarah continued. One made his presence known last year. She offered a warm smile to Marcus. The other has stayed in the shadows, consistently providing monthly contributions that have benefited countless children. Tom clenched the armrest of his chair. Today I was approached by that second donor. Sarah's voice took on a gentle quality, revealing that, much like various aspects of existence, it was someone who had been present all along, seeking to reconcile in his own manner. She motioned toward Tom, who rose gradually. The crowd erupted in applause, yet his gaze was solely fixed on Sarah's face. Comprehension, absolution, and a sense of tranquility. Following the ceremony, they convened in Sarah's office. Marcus, Tom, and Sarah. On her desk rested Elena's mask, transformed into a work of art instead of a shield. A decade of contributions, Sarah remarked to Tom. Why didn't you share that with me? It was never about me, Tom responded. It was about setting things straight. With a playful grin, Marcus inquired. That segment was spontaneous. Tom wore a smile. Yet, there are moments when the most profound healing arises from the most surprising sources. Sarah lifted the mask, its intricate silver filigree shimmering in the light. In the context of healing, Elena inquired about the possibility of showcasing this in her studio as a reminder that certain masks are intended to be fleeting. What did you say to her? Marcus inquired. I agreed. Sarah placed the mask aside. I've moved on from it. Beyond her office window, the hospital thrived with activity. Emily's artwork remained displayed on the wall of courageous expressions, now accompanied by many others. Every narrative unfolds a journey of change, of recovery, of identities at last recognized with clarity. Marcus proposed dinner. Afterward, Sarah smiled, savoring her black coffee. Tom observed their departure, then retrieved his phone. The hospital's donation portal illuminated the screen. His finger lingered above the reveal donor button, then decisively pressed it down. Some masks, he concluded, had fulfilled their role for quite some time.